The problem we've got is that a lot of this food ends up on our supermarket shelves. We've got the case in point with Australia, the Australian deal that Liz Truss was so proud that she did a few months ago. We knew it would damage our industry, and I think the Labour Party did FOI only recently, and it's come out that, yes, it will damage the farming industry. We all knew it would. And the problem we've got with that deal is that they are allowed to bring into our country around 260,000 tonnes a year of raw cane sugar. Now, people might not realise we grow sugar in this country. Behind me is a field of sugar beet. And here, I've got one here, is a sugar beet root. And that will actually turn into a bag of sugar. And yet we're importing food from abroad, from Australia, particularly in this trade deal. And sugar cane in Australia, it's allowed to be grown with 30 products that we are banned from using here on this sugar beet crop behind me. And that is just wrong, that we're being undercut. And of course, the sugar that ends up on our shelf, that is English sugar beet, silver spoon, with the Union Jack on, which is fantastic. But also we have a product with the Union Jack on, and that is Tate & Lyle, that is foreign sugar cane. And it's the labelling that's wrong as well. But that is grown, Alistair, with over 30 products that we are banned from using on this crop behind me. And this is just the case in point. That's one instance.
The branding point, I'm glad you did that because I wasn't aware of that, and thank you for doing it. Tell me this, how do you, I mean, you have that lovely, hold that lovely beat up again, if you will, if you've still got it there. How do you, look at that, live telly, there's me beat. How do you keep it clean, safe, and not eaten away by nasty creatures? Because it looks a fine specimen.
Well, this is like a sort of giant parsnip, Alistair, at the minute. But when this crop, this won't be harvested until probably November, December time, when it'll be probably 3 or 4 times that, it'll be the size of I am with my hand now. It'll be huge. And you need 6 of these roots to actually make 1 bag of English silver spoon sugar. But you're quite right. How do we keep it right? You mentioned at the start that seed treatment we're banned from using. That's a neonicotinoid. And that was banned about 6 or 7 years ago. 7 years ago. It was banned on oilseed rape first, and then it was banned on sugar beet. Now, our argument is sugar beet, as you can see, is a non-flowering crop. And bees do not go in sugar beet. It was banned mainly to protect bees. But I know I've got quite a few followers and people I talk to on Twitter. I've got one bee farmer, Alistair, that was involved in the DEFRA study, and he had to sign a non-disclosure NDA before he started. He had this whole year's study, and then he came to the conclusion at the end, and he actually put the report into DEFRA that the neonicotinoids, the seed treatment, did not harm his bees whatsoever, and that it did not affect the production of his honey from his bees. And yet he was reminded he was not allowed to disclose this information because he signed this NDA. And this is the type of thing we're up against, Alistair, that we've got all these environmental things. Environmental protection is looked upon and put ahead of food production and obviously self-security of food.
Final question, Andrew, and you nodded earlier to Liz Truss and the deals that she'd done when she was Trade Secretary. In a minute, less if you can manage it, what would you, as a leading farmer, Arable Farmer of the Year, like to hear from Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak as a farmer, as an agriculturalist in this campaign?
Very quickly, Alistair, I would like to see them supporting British agriculture. I would like to see them restrict imports that are grown to inferior standards to our own. It's as simple as that. At the minute, we're not getting that, and that's all we want.
I love that when people come well under the time and make it crisp and clear. For your bags of sugar and for your brilliant sugar beet, I'm very grateful. And I do look forward to sitting in the cab of your tractor or combine ere long. I think you, your team and my team are working on that. And that's going to be one heck of a programme. I so look forward to it. For the time being, Andrew, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alistair.
Joining me again is another friend of this programme, Mark Tufnell. Mark's the president of the Country Landowners Association, but I always say this, more importantly, he is actually a farmer himself. Before we get into the pesticide business, I just want to share, you will have seen it, I know, but share with folk at home this picture. Have we got it? Can the team pop it up at the moment? It's the still of the parched earth. Have we got that somewhere? No, we're trying to find it. If it crops up, we'll show it. But it's a big picture I think it's in the Mail on Sunday. Here we go. Let's pop it up now. There. So on the left, just a few days ago, green and pleasant land. On the right, after 48, 72 hours of heat wave, parched earth. Are we going to recover from that, or is that a really serious problem?
I think it's going to be a real problem for this cereal harvest this year. I'm an arable farmer in the Cotswolds, and my arable crops have really suffered in this heat. I think the grains will be pinched. I think the yields will be down, and we'll have to wait and see what the quality is like.
And that means higher prices. That will mean higher prices.
Well, the prices is determined by supply and demand across the whole world when it comes to wheat. And they've got similar problems in the Northern Hemisphere. And of course, we've got this crisis continuing in Ukraine and Russia. So whilst there has been a reduction in price recently because of the deal that's been done between Ukraine and Russia, I do think that overall there will be an increased supply, an increased price as we go forward.
All right. We talked a little bit about the grain deal with Russia falling apart yesterday, so I'm not going to use up our precious time but I hear exactly what you say there, and if the prices are recovering to a slightly lower point, hurrah, but watch this space. We invited you on to talk about the pesticide issue. Your farm is mainly arable, as you've just said, but you also make a big thing about incorporating key conservation measures for wildlife and enhancing biodiversity. So are you for or against this ban on this particular strand of pesticides?
I think the thing your listeners have to understand is that this is specifically about neonicotinoids, which impact bees. And the science does show that it impacts them really quite severely. Now, there is a derogation out for sugar beet, as Andrew quite rightly says, but for oilseeds and for cereals, the use of neonicotinoids on the seed has been banned. Now, I think that's correct. That's what the science shows. And it's banned within EU, and it's been banned since 2018. Now, of course, Alistair, the irony behind what the EU are proposing to do is that they've issued over 200 derogations within the EU, so that member states are still using it in any case. So they should get their own house in order first before they start banning products going into the EU.
Yeah. Are you also surprised that a member of the World Trade Organization is doing this? Because, I mean, I know it is trade, and agricultural products, as we've talked about many times before, are a crucial part of global trade. But I'm just wondering if the EU and the WTO have genuinely got their ducks in a row on this particular issue.
Well, I suspect what will happen is that the EU have decided that they will decide the rules and they will let the WTO come after them. Generally speaking, it takes about 9 years for anything to happen with the WTO, and I suspect in that interim, the EU will just effectively take their own case forward and largely ignore WTO. Now, of course, as Andrew quite rightly points out, there are other countries, Australia, Canada, America, who all use neonicotinoids. And it's ironic that if we have a ban, as they suggest, we may well, and we do it in this country, we could end up banning products coming from the EU